All right, good evening. My name is Patrick Mason. I'm the fire marshal of the Nevada County Consolidated Fire District. Kind of some things going on with the fire district right now. We've kind of been on hold a little bit with our reorganization. Penn Valley and Rough and Ready. Waiting for the municipal services review to come back. That is coming back here in July, but A.B. Triton, the consultant who did the review, went ahead and sent us a bullet point letter. Kind of with some findings and some recommendations that they're going to put in their review. Probably the biggest one, and I'll just read it here. It says, in speaking with fire chiefs and elected and appointed officials, it appears that Western Nevada County is ready for consolidation of the core area fire districts. We will recommend that Nevada County Consolidated, Penn Valley, Rough and Ready, and Oak Hill fire districts reorganize into a single fire district as soon as practical. We will further recommend that the Preparedness Chicago Park Fire District join the Consolidated District sometime within the next 5-year MSR period. So, great news. Hopefully we can put our foot back on the gas and we'll get to see moving. The other thing that's going on right now is we're having a fiscal analysis being conducted just to see what the total cost of this, it all comes together between all the different fire districts. Along with that, there's different tax rates, tax zones, all that has to be figured out before the reorg can actually go through. When the reorg does go through, from my understanding, we're going to fall on Nevada County Fire and Rescue is going to be the name. Nobody's going to keep their current identity. It'll be a complete reorg into one brand new fire district. So Nevada County Fire and Rescue. Other things going on, the Pines to Mines trailhead up there at the 5 Mile House, mountain bike trailhead. We did get a grant from the county and they are building a parking lot up there at our fire station at the 5 Mile House to help assist with some of those parking instead of people playing Frogger across the highway all the time or parking right on the edge of the highway. We're going to open up some parking spaces up there. The Nevada County landfill update. How many of you guys been out there lately? Look at that big old concrete pad sitting out there. So the way that's going, all the underground water's done for the fire hydrants and all the fire water, fire sprinkler systems and all that. They were waiting for it to dry out enough so that they could finally get the concrete poured. They poured the concrete. And then now the metal building is going to be going up. There's a little bit of setback with the metal building right now. But they're working through that. But so far as I know, they're still on course. They've really skinnied down the public area where you can drive through to dump your area because they wanted to get all the underground water. So that project's moving along. Hopefully here within about the next year and a half-ish, new landfill building, which is going to open. How many of you guys have seen the plans for that? You guys see it's like 138,000 square foot dump facility, where you can pull it both sides. They can load 2 trucks at once with all the trash and debris. So hopefully it should cycle through a lot better. 2 scales going in, 2 scales going out at the same time.
Goodness.
So yeah, be able to get a lot better flow. Some other things I'm seeing on my end is the fire marshal plan reviews. I'm seeing a lot of backup generator systems for cell phone towers. A lot of existing cell phone towers, the companies are now putting in backup generators with approximately 500-gallon diesel fuel tanks. So it sounds like they kind of seeing that how much we do lose up here, especially during fires, winter, all that kind of stuff. So I'm seeing a lot of those projects come through. I got to give a shout out to the Greater Smith Hill Firewise community. I've been spending a lot of time down in the bottom of Augustine and Excelsior Road. Way down there at the bottom, but doing a lot of work down there. Property owners have really come together. I was out there the other day, did 2 property walks. While I was going out to one property, I looked down the road and there's people down with the loppers taking out vegetation. So awesome job to them. And then last but not least, the 21 lot subdivision up at the top of Banner. It's the pay property. That has cleared my office for approval. They've met all the items that I called out. So the 21 lot subdivision from my end is definitely going to be.
Does that include the Starbucks?
Yeah, you're gonna run it. So the thing with that one up there, it's very interesting. There's fire hydrants up there, the corner of Banner, Quaker, and Red Dog. The Red Dog side that goes down to Greenhorn. NID won't extend their hydrants anymore up there, so he's having to put in some water storage tanks. California state law, CAL FIRE enacted the fire safety rules back in April of last year, April 1st. And part of that was no building on strategic ridge lines unless we can mitigate the vectors. So part of that with Banner Mountain, that's a huge strategic ridge line for us. Part of the mitigation factors that had to go into play is there's no building within 100 feet of any slopes 30% or greater. And they have to be within 750 feet of a fire hydrant or established water source. So really was able to push it back. The downhill side, the Greenhorn River side, and any of those parcels all have to have a 30-foot fuel break back of the property line, accessible. That's kind of what we got going on with fire district. I'll be around here all night after the meeting. If you have any questions, feel free. Yes. Thank you.
That was super interesting. Okay, Craig.
No. Good evening, everybody. If you haven't met me, my name is Craig Griesbach. I'm the Director of Emergency Services for Nevada County OES. So I'll hit some high points here, and again, like Pat said, I'll be around. That's a question after as well. We'll be in your neighborhood near you throughout the summer doing wildfire preparedness messaging, right? To remind you all, know your FOB, get your go bags ready, know your evacuation routes, and all the things that we reach every single year. As a reminder, we all will need that. So we'll be out in many of your Firewise community meetings, evening events through the cities that they hold and all over the place. So this is really going now until June, July for intense outreach and education season. So if you would like us at one of your events, we are booking up fast through the summer. So please let us know. We'll try to accommodate you as our capacity lets us. If you are not familiar with this, so Zone Haven is our evacuation zone-based software that we've had implemented the last several years. They were purchased last year by Genesis Protect. And it's spelled kind of weird, it's GENASYS. They have an app that is live, if you were unaware of that you can download and get notifications of when your zone status changes for evacuation. So based on our messaging during emergencies, that's the first thing we do. We update the status of a zone, we send out a code red, then all the other emergency cascading messaging follows, right? So you could potentially even get notice a couple minutes, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, or you even get a code red. So it's something you can download, yes.
What's the name of that app?
Genesis Protect. So if you just search it in the App Store, you can download it. It's pretty straightforward. And like I said, it's Genesis is spelled a little different. It's all lowercase too. So come up and see me after you want to talk about that, and I can show you on my phone because I have it downloaded on my phone. Yeah.
Do they keep the same evacuation zone identifiers?
It's the same. It feeds from our map. So it's all the same zone numbers, evacuation identifiers. It's really user friendly. It's pretty simple. As you know, now is the time to be cleaning up your property, doing your defensible space work. And there's a lot of different resources in the community. Some of those resources right now are free community green waste drop-off events at the transfer station. So they had one yesterday. There's 2 more opportunities on May 13th and 27th. That's free drive-through, dump, and go. We also have a Firewise Community Green Waste Partnership Program that we're kicking off this year. That essentially is dropping up to 2 bins for each Firewise community. We're about half booked up as of right now. We've had a lot of interest this last couple of weeks. And we'll be booking up, and those were first kicked off last weekend. So if you have interest in that, I put some flyers in the back table back there on both of those events, but it's also available on our Ready Nevada County website. We just announced 26 Firewise micro grants to a variety of communities throughout the county, $3,600 each for a variety of wildfire preparedness initiatives. Really exciting to see the projects. I mean, it's all over the place, from radio projects to roadside treatment projects. Although it's a small amount of money, it's very mighty because we've seen it be stretched a long way with other projects. So this is our second round. We look forward to doing that. I'm blinding myself here with the projector. Potentially as funding comes down, doing more rounds of that moving forward. But that's on our OES project page. If you want to see the Firewise communities that were awarded, and you want to reach out and engage with them. Let's see. We recently presented our evacuation study to our board of supervisors. So it was about a 9-10 month process through a CAL FIRE grant to identify the top 5 evacuation vulnerable communities in the county. So a lot of this information is not necessarily new because we know this living in this community. But the coolest thing about this study is it really will help us build defensible projects for funding as whether it's a Firewise community that takes it on, or it's OES, or it's a nonprofit, or it's a contractor, whatever it is, it will help us build and structure our priorities a bit better. So the top 5 communities were Alta Sierra, Greenhorn, Cascade Shores / Banner Mountain, Lake of the Pines, and Lake Wildwood. This was through the review of technical analysis for wildfire modeling, traffic analysis, and our technical advisory committee with the multitude of professionals in there.
Can you see it one more time?
So the top 5 were Alta Sierra, Greenhorn, Cascade Shores / Banner Mountain, Lake of the Pines, and Lake Wildwood. But you don't have to remember this or write it down. It's on our website. If you just search Nevada County Evacuation Study, it'll link to that document. And I will warn you, it is very big. The cool thing about that too, based on the budget, we couldn't evaluate every single evacuation concern in the county, but we had an appendix that was created in Appendix A. It was a community-based feedback section. So we built a tool. You all gave us feedback of your day-to-day concerns in your community, and those are built in to that study. So it actually has ground truth information for a lot of the Firewise communities throughout Nevada County that we can use as well. And we actually have been using that for a while, even before we released the study, because we had this information for our winter storm cleanup projects. We prioritized roads that were identified by Firewise communities. We looked at that when we looked at reviewing our Firewise micro grant proposals. So we've been leveraging that for some time already. Let's see, we're working on our update to our Ready Set Go guide. That should be released midsummer. So look for that in your mailboxes. And if you want copies for your Firewise community, once that's released, we'll have that for you. So we're actively working on that now. We're continuing to work on our local hazard mitigation plan update, along with community wildfire protection update. There's a survey live, the local hazard mitigation plan. This is essentially a 10,000 foot level of an all hazards approach of how we look at what is threatening to our community and how do we mitigate it. And it's a requirement for several reasons for funding. It has to be updated every so often, and we'll have to submit it and be reviewed through Cal OES and FEMA. So that, if we would love for you to take that survey, if you haven't already, it takes about 5 minutes. It's on our website. Again, you can just search Nevada County LHMP or local hazard mitigation plan, or I can talk to you after this and give you the link as well. Last but not least, we are advertising a paid summer youth intern right now. It's a really exciting opportunity that we got funded through a grant that we applied for. It's a small piece of a grant that we're able to pay a youth intern. We're looking for a junior, senior, or recently graduated student to help us really with our outreach and engagement strategy for young families and youth. This is a big area that we struggle with reaching a lot of the time. So they're going to be engaged with us, not just with everything OES and learning about that, but also helping us build something that we can use for the years to come with our outreach and education plan. So if you know of anyone that's interested, let me know. That's advertised on our job postings on Nevada County, where I can see the link. You can grab my card, send to you.
Thank you, Craig. Mickey, anybody?
Right, good evening, everyone. Mickey Cheezick with CAL FIRE. I'm the local battalion chief here. My office is in Nevada City.
Nick, could you stand on this side by the flag, and then the camera will pick you up from the piece.
So my office is in Nevada City. Just an update on our staffing. We started to bring on some of our employees, a couple of weeks ago. We'll be full staffed on June 17th, and we will have every facility open on June 3rd. They pushed it back a little bit this year, due to the weather conditions, but, fire season is coming. Whether we think it is or not, we had, 18 acres, last week or the week before. And then I was late to this meeting because we had a roadside fire in North San Juan. So, fire season's coming. We'll have 3 dozers staffed in the unit this year. That's starting on June 3rd. The air attack and 2 tankers will be up at Grass Valley Air Attack Base right around mid-June. That's probably about the 17th. And then, we'll have 1 engine at Columbia Hill, 1 engine at Higgins, right now, and then those will go to 2 engines along with Nevada City on June 17th. Our unit is hosting what we call an all hands meeting. It's an all employees meeting to get together to the chief to give us his message and his leaders intent. That's going to be a fairly big event in South County on May 30th. There'll be road signs there stating a non-emergency CAL FIRE event, but it's going to be a large presence by us. So if you live in South County, I'm sure that you'll see us down there. And that's all I have.
Okay,
Yes, I'm next, huh?
yeah, unless Pat, you want to ask Pat, but yeah, please, Pete.
Okay.
Pete, Pat.
All right, no,
Martha.
no. I think you can hear me, can you? Okay.
Yeah.
I
Yes.
prefer talking this way. Well, I'm Pete Williams. I'm the chair of the board of directors of Fire Safe Council, and let me guess, you might have heard a few things about us recently in the media. It's out there, I think, right? Okay. Well, the Firewise communities are a very important part of us. We want to have a meeting, we want to have a dialogue with the leaders of various Firewise communities or their representatives next week here, 6 to 7:30. And the idea is that to answer your questions, and a big part of it for us is to listen to you. But this is kind of an opportunity, we think, to ask, people that we work with, how can we do better? How can we do better? What can you tell us about our operation from your perspective that might help us improve? So the idea would be to have a roundtable, again, with maybe not 1,000 people, but again, the leaders of the Firewise communities or their representatives, to just talk about things. So more of a conversation than a presentation. So that is a week from today, 14th. That's right, 14th from 6 to 7:30 or so, whatever it takes. And so again, it'll be a conversation, a roundtable type thing, or listen a lot, answer your questions and see where it takes us.
So that will be here at Esther.
Be right here in this room, and I guess we'll like set up a circle or something so we can all just chat.
Just tell them the thousands of.
Oh, thank you. Okay, right.
Staff and board or just the board?
Board staff would be, I think, yeah. We want to capture some ideas, only like a writer to write some things down on flip charts or whatever. We have to talk about how we're going to do that. But that's it.
One question, can we participate in that via Zoom? Or is it in person only?
Well, let me ask the technical experts who I think are sitting right there. It's fine with me. It's fine with that. It's fine. I think the more voices, the better. So if we have more Firewise communities represented, that's a good thing. So if we can do it that way, it's not awkward. See, well, yeah, but there's wizard with these things.
We can talk later.
Okay, good. All right. So that's all I have now. Dwayne browsed through somewhere, I think, and yeah, I think he has some more things related to the property council. Then we just drop something. Or the clicker, there you go. Thanks.
So I'll keep this quick. I'm here in place of Jim Mathias. He was double booked tonight, so I haven't been in front of this group before, so we just threw a couple of small talking points together for you. Number one is going to be redundant, but you'll see up here for the Firewise Festival. A few of us did our best to support Bob Long and some others here to step forward to set up a separate account. The Firewise Festival sponsorships of money, and that'll get covered in more detail, but I confirmed through emails today that after many tries over the last 2 weeks, it's finally up and running. So it will be segregated. We very much encourage that just to keep things clean for the perception that's out there right now. A couple of things going on. We are still actively open. We have enough of a skeleton crew there Unfortunately, our field crews are furloughed, but we have staff on site that are answering the phone, helping people. I saw McKenna, I think with Mo today, you know, going over the Firewise Festival stuff pretty seriously. So we are still there. Even some of us that are not being paid are there to keep things moving forward. We were notified today by the county that the Forest Reserve funding, Title III, that we typically have had the last couple of years, we did not get granted. But Pat Leach did a great job, and she's found a couple of other outside grant opportunities, because that really is for Firewise. That's to, you know, to grow and support Firewise. So we found a couple other grant opportunities we're applying for, try to supplement for that money that we typically get that was lost, so we did not. And CAL FIRE today, there's a model defensible program. It's kind of a new platform that they are introducing. So we are aggressively looking at that too as a new source of potential grant funding coming down. And then we do have a couple of grants that we had applied for previously that are not FEMA related, so there are no restrictions that we have been asked to give more input on. Usually that's a sign that you made it through the first couple of rounds if they're asking for updates and changes and edits. So we have done those now too, and we're hoping that that will be the funding we need to get our crews back up and running for fuels mitigation projects, which is what we're supposed to be doing. This whole purpose is for Firewise fuels mitigation. So we're working strongly on all that. And if you have any questions, feel free to call the office, please. There are those of us there doing our best to at least answer questions when people have plenty of them. So give us a call. I think we have a fire advisory committee meeting with Nevada City next week. And that includes a couple of Nevada City Firewise communities. They're typically sitting in on that. And as ex-city councilman and mayor there, I'm sitting in on that too. And you know, in the audience helping out with advice. Any other questions? Thank you.
Thank you. Along those same lines, we have an update on the Firewise Festival mode.
So the first update that I'm going to share with you is this. So we are now officially sold out. We took our, the ticket site has been brought down with sold out on it. We've reached our maximum capacity for the location and for our caterer. So we're very excited by the support that we've gotten from everyone. So with that, I wanted to do a little shout out, if I may, for a couple minutes. The planning committee consisted of Pete Williams, Steve Eubanks, Warren Knox, Jason Hudgip, Jim Mathias, McKenna Hayden, Craig, Kristen, who's on vacation right now, but still working and sending me texts every day, Paul Tebble, Jeff Peach, Lauren, and Sandra, and Tracy, and Louise is usually here, but I didn't see her today, Kevin Thompson, and Darren Boo. So these are all the different Firewise communities and stakeholders that helped us plan this. We have 43 Firewise communities represented as coming to this event with us, so we're excited by that. My goal was 50, but I'll take that number for this year. A special shout out to the Firewise communities who, in addition to coming, also donated to the event. Greenhorn, Lightning Tree, Rattlesnake Road Neighborhood Association, and Salmon Mines East Sages. So thank you all for that. We were going to have multiple booths. They're still coming in, but those who are attending will be learning and reviewing. All the first responders will be there. Ford Bronco Wild Fund will be there. BurnBot will be there. They won't have a booth, but Stifle Investments, thank you for your gold sponsorship. Our silver sponsors, Buyer Home Hardening, Genesis, No Wildfire, Vulcan Vents, and then we have 3 State Farm brokers pulled together to sponsor us, and that's Chuck Hammert, Brian Hollister, and Mike Bratton. Educational booths include, I said the first responders, also U.S. Forest Service and Smoky Bear will be there. The Department of Insurance will be represented. Cal Fair will be there. Fire Safe Council, OES, Resource Conservation District that help us learn how to burn safely. Lake Wildwood will have a presence. We're going to do best practices for all across Firewise communities, and the Red Cross Disaster Response Team will be there. So, and it's changing every day. We're getting more involvement every day. So we're excited. We're happy to participate. And those of you that are coming, I look forward to seeing you on June 1st. Thank you all.
That is great news. Bob, do you want to finish up with the financial?
Yeah,
Do you want the mic?
no, put it down.
Oh, it's on off.
Yeah, my favorite subject, finance. So, the coalition and your steering committee were asked by the committee of the Firewise Festival to help with the finances because of the kerfuffle that appeared in the newspaper. So what we've done, is we've set up a separate checking account that goes active tomorrow morning. All the donations, all the contributions, all the ticket sales, the sales from the silent auction, the noisy auction, whatever else is happening at the festival will go into this standalone checking account. And the checking account, the signatories on the checking account are all volunteers. And we've followed all the rules that GAAP generally is accepted accounting principles mandate. We've applied to these finances. It's extremely modern and updated financial software we have. We'll post an Excel spreadsheet on our website once this whole thing is done. The whole thing is being managed by paper. But everything is isolated, so if any of your neighbors have a question about donations or writing checks, trust me, they're safe. So if there's any questions about it afterwards, or if you want to help, I'll be around afterwards as well.
Thank you, Bob. So now we have a special guest, Captain James, starts with an AUS, might have done fun. And he's joining us via Zoom to talk about one of your favorite topics, reporting. The 3-year plan. We have Captain Ausboe. You need to mute.
Hello, everybody. Can you hear me?
We can hear you now.
Perfect. I'm going to try to share a little bit this evening on the risk assessment and 3-year action plan. So hopefully I can do that. I have just in the background my battalion chief, Anthony Masuko. He's your North State region approver and a rejecter for the Firewise applications. I know that's a bad word to say. I apologize. But I want to say hello to everybody in person and those of you online. I appreciate you all being here tonight. And so let's try to see if I can't share a page here. And should be this one. And sharing. All right, can everybody see? No. We might be on the wrong page. Is this my cursor here? No, we're over here. This one?
Yeah.
See it.
Oh, there it is. Okay. I was looking at Susan's screen for validation. Perfect. Thank you, Susan. So anyways, this is the NFPA approved Firewise risk assessment. And I wanted to start out by pointing out that this is an NFPA document. So this is a federal document that we are utilizing for you to conduct a risk assessment. For those of you that have been around for a long time, you may have noticed in the past we've done some, we had a different version of this. It was virtually the same, but it had some more orange highlights. And then there was an even previous version for those of you who've been around for more than 5-6 years, that was more like a CWPP base that had, it was usually a 15 to 17 page document that had a lot of photos and a lot of really good information. And it kind of represented a lot of what you try to do in real life, going out and talking with your local fire representative and your fire safe council and representatives in the field. You guys talk about so much about the fuels, the topography, your evacuation routes, the different homes and building constructions, what you've done in the past and what you're currently doing and what you want to do in the future. So this risk assessment sometimes feels a little bit undervalued. So I just wanted to run over some highlights and just let you guys know that you're not alone in rushing through this document because you've put so much effort into the field. So these first couple pages are just instructions. You know, they talk about here in California, we talk about this immediate zone being zone 0 and then zone 1 and zone 2. Here on this federal document, we refer to it as the immediate zone, the intermediate zone, and the extended zone. So we don't mind if you intertwine those languages. That's okay. There's nothing wrong with doing that. As we get down to page 2, we start getting into some more instructions, and then here's in red how to conduct the risk assessment. So this first sentence here, each state may designate its own template, which we have not. We've utilized the federal template, and special requirements for Firewise USA participation. So one of the special requirements that we'll give to in a little bit is the 3-year action plan. This next page is here, page number 3. This is usually not something that people mess up on, but I just wanted to point out here that this is, I wish they had it written here, but it's not. It's you include your name here, your role or organization. So you put your name, and then the resident leader would go usually first, and then one of the fire officials we like to see, and a representative of the Fire Safe Council or a 5013C is something that the Insurance Commissioner's Office is looking for. So we like to see that. And any other participants, usually another resident leader, or you can say a board member or something like that. And then over here, we have your phone number and your email address. These boxes, if you click on and type in, and as you type in long emails, the font gets smaller. So don't freak out when it gets smaller or it goes away. Usually we can click on this and we can scroll right to left and read it. Sometimes when you print this out as well, this font here, and especially in this one where you have a short box like this and you want to type a lot, it'll mess it up visually, but we can see it. Site name.
James, if we have a question, can we ask
Oh.
now, or would you rather we wait till the end if we have a question?
I'd rather wait till the end if that's okay, unless it's really pertinent.
Well, it has to do with the list of 5 participants there that you were just showing
Okay.
us.
Go ahead and ask it.
So it sounds as if it needs to be more than just people who are on our individual Firewise community committee. You're looking for more, you're looking for outside people as well, fire people.
Yeah, the instructions here say participants include your district forester or Firewise board members, but in California, with the Insurance Commissioner's Office, Safer from Wildfires, we 10 steps to be safer from wildfire. They're recommending, utilizing your local fire official for fire history and evacuation planning and the fire threat, really. And then your Fire Safe Council was representing the 501c3 where you guys apply for grants, and having them there to really discuss their agenda from the county. Usually we have the Nevada County Fire Safe Council, so they're looking at it as from the county role. So it's nice for you to represent that here. And we understand that your board may consist of 10 people, 8 to 10 people. So that's more than the participants here. I have seen some people get creative with other programming and add more language down here to other participants, but that's really not necessary. You can add that as a separate attachment.
Thank you.
Yeah. Site name. Thank you for the question. That was good. Site name. When a lot of people in the beginning, you'll notice you'll put a site name, you'll have your community, and then you'll put Firewise at the end. So if you notice that during your application, you put Firewise in the name and then you see it disappear, either me or Chief Masuko will remove that Firewise, or Megan with Firewise with NFPA will remove it because Firewise is a given. Sometimes Firewise is in the middle where you write your name plus a Firewise community or Firewise. There's some other terms, and we'll usually leave that one. So this is pretty straightforward. City, county, state. This boundary description for me is pretty key to type in, because sometimes your clearly defined boundary on your map may not be so clear to me or Chief Masuko or NFPA while they're putting that data in. So writing in here some keywords to really, you're going along this highway, this road at the north, this creek or road to the right, or a parcel boundary on the right, on the east side, and then on the south, you may be along the school or Forest Service jurisdiction or something like that. As we scroll down to page number 3, we continue with the general site information. One thing I want to note here is the dwelling units. So on your portal, when you create your portal, you'll represent your dwelling units. Usually people start with this risk assessment because somebody gives them the risk assessment. You guys go and do this, and you'll come up with a number, 85 dwelling units and however many residents. That usually changes throughout the time when you go meet with a county assessor or you actually get out and physically count them. One thing at the final application is if you claim 85 here on the risk assessment, and then on the 3-year action plan, you write 85, and then on your portal, you write 84, we want to make sure that those numbers are all the same. We recognize that there may be some discrepancies, but that leads to the amount of hours of risk reduction that you guys do. And then these are common check boxes here, and just things that are easy about your area. Description of the wildland. We have vegetation and topography types, just going through there. Now we get down here to the observations. We want to record the observations from within your site and recommendations for actions that can be included in the site's action plan, the 3-year action plan. So this is really where we're getting this, where this document is working with the 3-year action plan. They say consider taking photos to keep with your site's files. So you can upload photos into your portal. Just do that in a separate upload in the same risk assessment. This is a key that I wanted to discuss is remember, this is a community-wide view and should report on overall conditions of the entire community, the entire site. It's not looking at each individual dwelling. Some people, they want to go to each home and knock on each homeowner's door and say, hey, what kind of building materials is your home made of? What kind of windows do you have? This is more of a windshield survey. You and the people assessing can just drive around your community. Obviously, if you only have 8 to 10 homes, you might have better knowledge. But if you get up in 500, even 100 homes, it's hard to go door to door. This section here is observations. So this is where the check boxes come in. If you notice here, we can talk about the roofing materials. As a good example, most people don't have, I have one in my neighborhood. I live in the city. There a couple doors down, there's a home that has wood shake shingles. Most of you out there in Nevada County, I'm sure you haven't had wood shake shingles in years. So we have those composite shingles, metal, cement, tile, and clay. So 50 to 75% of the homes have that non-combustible shingles. And so this really gets back to that general overview. 1 or 2 homes, even if you have 100 homes and 2 homes have wood shake shingles, you're still going to click this greater than 75%. So as you click through all these, soffit vents are a hard one. Unless you get up close, you can't see usually if they're enclosed or what kind of screens they have. So that's why we have this unknown box. We have the siding and the skirting material, usually found on manufactured or mobile homes. The attachments with the wood is these homes have no wooden attachments. And so this one always throws me for a loop because it's the only one that's utilizing no. Windows, multi-pane windows, again, it's hard to tell from afar, but you could use this unknown or take your best educated guess based off that's where the fire official is there. We kind of know a little bit about building construction generally. The roof and gutter debris, it's going to be hard to see when you're up close, when you're out in the street, but try to make an observation of that. And then this is really important. We get back to that immediate zone or zone 0, intermediate zone or zone 1, and extended zones. So we click through all these boxes, and then we get down here and we have some common areas or adjacent lands. We click here, type in some verbiage if we are adjacent to wildlands. And then the most important thing that kind of really messes us up is we've driven to this point, we've driven around our communities and we've gathered all this information, taken photos, written down a bunch of notes. We've talked about evacuation routes. We've talked about who's doing a good job, who's not per se. And then we get down in here and we want to, a lot of times we want to just take in here and just type paragraph after paragraph of what we noted. And what we're looking for is, I don't mind seeing those paragraphs in there because this is a great place to put it, but we want to use this summary section to summarize the finding in the observation section, which is what we just went through. So the example that we're looking for is, if you click that greater than 75% of the homes observed have non-combustible roofs. However, there were several noted with wood shake shingles, like in my neighborhood. We want you to write that down. We want you to write that down for each one of these. And I know that sounds redundant, but it takes it back to the most basic level of this form. And then you can go ahead and add some other things to it, but make sure you make that clear that we're seeing that, because then what we're going to do is down in on page number 9, the recommendation, we're going to use the findings from the observation phase and identify actions and steps that can be taken to reduce the risks, right? So we're going to take all of what we wrote in here, and we're basically going to take the inverse of that. And if we have 50% of the homes have, non-combustible roofs, but we still have 50% to go, we're going to talk about how we're going to get those homes. Usually the roofs aren't the problem, but like this represents the roof debris. So we want to take everything from there, put it inversely into here. And then of course, many of you are going to want to type more things about evacuation routes and your water supplies and different things that you've addressed. And this is a great place to put it. Both this section and this section, you can type paragraphs and pages and all kinds of stuff, and it'll just make the font really small. And it gets a little bit frustrating to read, but when we click on it digitally, we can read that. The next page is talking about your map. I have successfully put a map in here one time. So if you're frustrated with this box, I see many people are successful, and even in the last few weeks, I've attempted to put a map in here and I've been unsuccessful. So one of these days I'm going to figure it out again, but it's been a few months since I've been able to, but I've seen applications come through with maps in here. If you can't put a map in here, we'll just insert it in as a separate attachment, which a lot of times works out better, or you need it because your community is so large. And then we get down below here. I know this gets redundant. Nobody wants to keep reading, but this has a lot of definitions of dwelling units and action plans and different things that people are like, well, what's a resident leader versus their committee or the state liaison, which is what me and Chief Masuko technically are. And then here is one of the most important overlooked items, is the steps that you're going to go through on your application. And so these steps, this is a good place to kind of reference that, and you can check them off as you go through. You can see it in front of you, but my biggest recommendation is don't skip any of these steps, and try to make sure when you're in your portal, the overview step is you're already done on when you opened your portal, but in the second step, risk assessment, this will be your step 2, I think is actually just community details, which is already there, your state requirements, and then border committee, I encourage everybody to click on there and at least add one person, and that's great for if you move away, or this last fall, we had somebody pass away, so we were able to go in their border committee and reach out to them to continue their renewal application. The action plan is where we upload the action plan. Education outreach, we need to do one education outreach event each year, so you'd upload it in there. Vegetation removal, we do that in cubic yards. There's an estimator in there. If you have any questions, reach out to myself or your regional coordinator. We can help you with that. And then this site investment, this is old. It's $31. That would really, this monetary value is if you pay somebody, you know, to do your risk reduction community hours. We really want you to do voluntary hours, though some new modern HOA developments have 100% where they pay for, but all of us that own older homes, we do the volunteer hours. And then the last review step of your application is really important, because that's where you go back over everything and make sure everything, click on all the boxes, make sure everything's there. And then I don't know how I'm doing on time, but I wanted to jump over to this 3-year action plan real quick. And Chief Masuko and the rest of us have really worked hard to ensure this last year on the renewal process that everybody has the most current document. The best way to tell is this first page. And I focus on this first sentence here, or this last sentence of this first paragraph. It says goals for this plan must include the recommendations located on page 9 for the Firewise USA risk assessment. So this really ties that document, this document, with the risk assessment. And then the other thing that we want to stress here is this paragraph here is noting that defensible space is required at all times for all buildings or structures within the state responsibility area per Public Resource Code 4291. And what that means is that leads to the question of, can you do measurable and achievable goals without, so Public Resource Code 4291 and your defensible space in your zone 0, zone 1, and zone 2, those are mandatory at all times. So on the risk assessment, we marked that, 50% of the homes are compliant with the, clearing their vegetation in zone 1. That was on the federal document. That's okay to do. And on this document, we want to make sure that how do we address that goal of getting everybody up to 100% compliance? What we want to do is we want to identify that need needs to be done, but instead of using words like 50 to 75% compliance is where we're at right now. We want to, in year 1, we want to get to 75 to 100 or 100% compliance. We want to use words like maintain compliance in zone 0, or maintain 4291 compliance, or maintain, continue, or improve. And those words, what they do is they give you the ability as the community to still improve your compliance and improve your defensible space, or you're going to maintain it. And without, if you say you're going to educate people, that would be in the education outreach, but then down in the defensible space, you don't want to say that you're going to educate people on how to improve it, or you don't want to throw yourself out of compliance, if that makes sense. I know this is going to open up a lot of questions, and later after this we can address some of those, and then also feel free to reach out and ask me or a regional coordinator for clarification. As we move over here, another top miss thing is this community name. We can double click here. This is a header. You erase this and you write your community name in here. And of course here it's restricting editing. So see, we all have problems here writing. So I'm backspacing and deleting to get rid of that. And then I'll write my Firewise community, like so many of you like to do. We like to put this Firewise community in here. And then this date range here, right now it's the first part of the year. So anybody who's applying right now, we're gonna put 2024 through 25 and 26 for the date range. After July 1st, right now is the cutoff time that we did. After that, we'll go ahead and make that for anybody that's new after July 1st, we'll go ahead and make their 3-year action plan 25, 26, and 27. And the reason for that is, especially for you guys up in, we've had snow up there all winter. And so if we've been working on our risk assessment and our action plan for 3, 4, 5 months, a lot of the stuff we've done is from last year. So our action plan, we're applying for it right now based off the things we did last year. And so we want our action plan to start now. But if we've getting out and past July, now everything's greening up. We're doing a lot of defensible space work right now. And so applications after July 1st are going to go ahead and use that 25 to 27 date range. And then here we double click here. We want to make sure we see if I can type in this one. There we go. 2025 for year. Sorry, wrong page. See how easy it is to get mistaken. I did it right here. So don't feel bad if you get mistaken and we correct you. We'll send it back for correction, and we can move on. This community description, it says right here, delete the example below. Many people take this example and they run with it, and we can tell, but that's okay. You can make it your own. I'm okay with it. But right here it says 100 households or 100 dwelling units. So make sure, remember that matches your risk assessment and your portal, because Chief Masuko, on his template, he looks at the portal, then he looks at the risk assessment, and then he finally looks here at the action plan. So year 1, we click in here, we'll put 2024. In here, we're going to do education and outreach goals. This is where you're going to put your community event. And we really want to see 3 to 5 things in each one of these. Home hardening goals, you're going to take those things like your gutters, your roofing materials, different things like that. You're going to add in here. And your defensible space goals, we're going to write in here. Remember, we want to make sure that we don't go against Public Resource Code 4291 or defensible space. And so we want to do things like maintain the vegetation in zone 0, or improve it or continue it in this one here. And then our last but not least, the things that we didn't talk about is our evacuation planning. So we're going to go in here and put this. Now, year number 1 is really easy. You add all this kind of stuff. Some people make a great year 1. What we really don't want to see, I've seen a few people do this very successfully, but we don't want to see you cut and paste all this into year number 2, and then all this in year number 3. We really want to say that's where the measurable and achievable goals, they build off of each other. But at the same time, if in here we put zone in year 1, we're going to focus on zone 0. And then down here in year number 2, we're going to focus on zone 1. And then year 3, we're going to focus on zone 3 or zone 2, sorry. That goes against the Public Resource Code as well, because focusing on one year and one the next year is almost building off of each other. But I do understand. So really, we want to see you focus on all 3 of them. And then maybe you can, if you want to emphasize, you focus on all 3, but emphasize zone 0 or something like that. Another thing that I wanted to draw your attention to is this right here. This footer is a California state required 3-year action plan, 11 of 23. This is the most current 3-year action plan. And so when we're looking at this, we'll see all kinds of different things. But one thing that we're looking for is this first page on here, knowing that you've read all of this, hopefully. And then we look at this to know that you're on the California state required 3-year action plan. And one thing I wanted to highlight and thank Chief Masuko for is I noticed on one of his rejections that he did. So remember, a rejection is not an F on a report card. It's just, we're giving it back to you for correction. And, but he did write this to somebody. He said, again, please note that your application is completed at or above expectation. It is obvious that time was taken to ensure it was completed with intent and accuracy. Just these small couple corrections needed and you should receive approval. So I just wanted to give a highlight to him, even though after he goes through and he dings you all, myself included, for all these little things, he does throw a little bit of grace. So that's my quick presentation. And I could, if I have time for questions, if you guys do, and yeah. And I'll keep sharing just in case somebody wants me to
I'm
go
going
over
to
something.
take questions from Zoom land and from the group here, and I'll repeat questions to the microphone. Does anyone have a question in the room? Yes.
So what is the minimum requirement in terms of who you have to have involved? So like ours was done for renewal this year, and in the past we had a registered forester and our fire representative, our fire agency. Is that desired? Like, do they have to come and tour the area? Or-
Did you hear that?
Yes. Yeah, technically, I don't know of any minimum requirements, but it's something that we like to see as if you utilize your local fire representative, they have the fire history of your area. If you're asking questions on, which way is the best for my evacuation route, or which way is the fire threat coming from? So when we apply for grant work to do fuel reduction measures, we're going to go focus on this section for that section. So we like to see that. And then as far as having, we're very fortunate in California to most counties have a county fire safe council which is a 501c3, so they can apply for grants. So by having a representative there for the fire safe council, not only do you get access to those grants, but you also get the intent from the county, and they let you know where their focus is and what they're focusing on, or if there's green waste collections, or sometimes the fire safe council will have a chipper program or tools that you can use, or a dumpster. They'll do dumpster programs, and they'll by having them involved, they'll know you're there. Obviously they'll know if you're not, but they could get that dumpster to your house. So if that makes sense.
Thank you. Anyone from Zoom? Oh,
I see
were you here?
Bob Snyder does.
Okay, Susan, did you have a question?
I'm within city limits, and does the 0 to 5, is the 0 to 5 zero zone 0 requirement apply to people within the city limits of Grass Valley?
I don't know about the local jurisdictions of like Grass Valley specifically. That would be something that that's why we'd have the local, generally speaking, though, the zone 0 will apply, and if not, maybe potentially be even a little bit stricter than that.
Thanks. Anyone else on Zoom? Okay.
I see Bob Snyder has his hand up. Needs to be unmuted.
Oh.
What's going on here?
Then maybe if you unshare, that will help, and then.
Oh, I could try. Still don't hear you, Bob.
Probably can't hear you.
I suppose.
So you.
There.
There.
No.
Oh, now he's back on mute.
Can you type your question, Bob?
There we go.
I think there's some technical difficulties happening. We cannot hear you. I
No.
see you talking, we can't hear you. Maybe you could reach out to Captain Ausboe after the meeting?
Yeah.
Okay, sorry, Bob.
Yep,
All right, any
I'll
other
reach out.
questions, Captain Ausboe? All right, thank you so much for your time. We really appreciate you being here virtually.
Yes, thank you.
Oh, yes, we have a quick announcement.
So I'm glad he said that he and his boss had some grace, so I hope he had a little bit of grace with me. So in addition to the sponsors I mentioned that will be on site, we couldn't do this program without our bronze level sponsors, which are $500 to $14,999. That's where the bulk of our funds come from, so that we can pay out to the Firewise communities that participate. So if you give me just a second, I'd like to share who they are. So firstly, we have the 49er Breakfast Rotary of Nevada City. We also have River Valley Community Bank, Zion Capital, Whiskey Family Insurance Agency, Hanson Brothers Enterprises, South Yuba Club, Briar Patch Food Co-op, AJA Video Systems, and our own Warren Knox family made a contribution. So I want to thank all our bronze levels because that's a mighty group of people that are supporting us. So thank you all very much.
Okay, you all hear me without the mic. Everyone else seems to be able to do just fine without the mic. Okay. We are now at the point in our agenda where we're going to talk about the survey results. So we sent out a survey, I guess about a month ago, because we really wanted to understand what we were doing well, what could use some improvement. Oh, I forgot my clicker. Over here. And so that we could determine what needs to be addressed at future meetings. Maybe some of you are really good in some topics, but need help on other topics. So we wanted to find out, what do you need help with and how can we help? So thank you to everyone who participated in the survey. It's really good information for us. We got 84 responses, which we are very excited about. 58 of those responses were from committee leaders or committee members, and 26 were from community residents. So thanks to everyone who responded to the survey. We had 41 Firewise communities participate, which is out of 96, a little less than half. So wasn't it the same number for the other participation? So it seems like the same 43 or same 43% are participating. So we'd like to see that a little bit higher, but we did get a lot of communities participating. I'm not going to go into the nitty-gritty details of all of the survey responses. It's a lot of information. We are going to look at all of it so that we know what topics are most important to all of you. But I'm going to give you some highlights for what we found. And there was one question we asked at the beginning of the survey, which was, is the frequency of these meetings meeting your needs? The quarterly frequency versus having them more frequently. And that was the one nearly unanimous vote that yes, quarterly meetings are better than meeting more frequently. And I think there was one person who wanted to have more frequent meetings. So if you are in the room now, let us know how we can support you. Otherwise, we're going to keep going with the quarterly. Most of the questions we asked, there were 3 areas that we asked about. We asked about reporting, just what Captain Ausboe was going over. We asked about administration, and then we asked about community knowledge and adoption. And we asked for responses on a scale of 1 to 5, 1 being we're struggling, 5 being we rock. So I'm just going to share a few highlights. I talked about, and we're going to start with successes. I like to start with the positive. So these are just taken from the write-in responses. So people seem to be getting good participation in work days. There were a lot of people that were happy with that. Communication, which led to better fire hardening among units. And we certainly got a lot of appreciation for the programs that the Fire Safe Council supports, like the free chipping program. And that inspires community members to do those all hands community cleanup efforts. We also got a lot of appreciation for the response to the storms and all the waste, the free green waste drop-offs. People were able to get rid of all that stuff that fell down in the storms. And then maintenance of the fire-resistant building materials resulting in insurance retention, which is a whole other topic that'll come up later in our survey results. So again, the community involvement and participation, good communication, good collaboration with the agencies. And then successful completion of all that reporting, the assessments, the action plans, the community education meetings. Using grants and resources for home hardening, good neighborhood networks and leadership teams. We certainly appreciate our leadership teams. Thank you. Implementation of emergency communication systems and evacuation route signage, continued education outreach, and successful engagement with residents, agencies, and volunteers for those ongoing Firewise practices. So those are some of the things that you all said you felt you were successful in. Challenges included limited capacity and resources, especially for elders, for home hardening, and this came up over and over again. You'll see it a few different times in these results. And then there's the residents that just don't want to engage in the fire mitigation practices, and that's another theme, a recurring theme that I know we all feel. So difficulty convincing people to cut back that vegetation, clear trees. And then there was also a concern about smoke and safety when burning debris on those burn days, especially in the summertime. And then getting funding for tree removal, another huge pain point for a lot of communities. Some frustration with the bureaucratic processes and delays in getting assistance. Again, the theme of engaging residents, particularly those who have physical limitations or the elderly. Obstacles in clearing public and private properties, and then limited communication infrastructure, limited evacuation routes, lack of involvement from absentee property owners, and then maintaining that community engagement when we haven't had a big fire in a couple of years. We've been really lucky, and some people have become a little bit complacent, so it's harder to get people coming to these meetings. Not you, not all of you. Thank you for being here. Okay. So now I'm just going to go over just a few highlights that were interesting. Some of the areas where people feel like they needed the most help, and some areas where people feel like they needed the least help. So we talked about the quarterly meetings. We're going to keep the meetings quarterly. The 3-year plan appears to be one of the most challenging documents to complete. So 72% of respondents found that process either very difficult or moderately difficult. Fundraising is another area where people are struggling, and all of the nonprofits I've worked with have also struggled with fundraising. So 50% of Firewise communities gave that a 1, that we're really struggling with that, and only 4% or 2 people gave it a we rock. So fundraising is an area where it sounds like everyone could use a little more help. Ongoing communication was a category where people felt really good. 60% gave it a 5, a we rock, or a 4, and only 4% gave it a 1. Only 4% were struggling with ongoing communication. And that's from the administration aspect, communication with everybody. A few more findings on the topic of community knowledge and adoption. Insurance was the clear loser. So this appears to be the area where most of us are the least knowledgeable, with 34% giving it a 1 or 2. So 34% of people struggling with insurance, understanding what's going on with their insurance. Where people are most confident is in their knowledge of the communication tools. So the Genesis app that we just heard about, and Code Red. So 60% of our communities gave that a 4 or a 5, like feeling pretty confident about what communication tools are available. So I gave you kind of the outliers, the areas where people are struggling the most and where people are feeling the most confident, but a lot of the survey answers came back kind of in the middle, like around a 3 or a 4. And a little later, I'll give you an example of that in depth, which is emergency preparedness. There's not a lot of people that felt like really struggling with that. There's also not a lot of people that felt like they're really confident with emergency preparedness. So we'd like to focus on those areas where people are just in the middle, because we'd love to see everyone at a 4 or a 5, feeling really confident in what you all are doing, instead of being kind of in the middle. So we have some work to do. Another question on the survey was asking for help in the volunteering department. And we were very pleased to see how many people were willing to step up again and join the higher level, the coalition, and help out. So we really appreciate that, because we know you all are doing a lot of work already. So many people volunteered to volunteer that we're going to have a separate meeting. And does this conflict? No, this does not conflict with the Fire Safe Council meeting. This is on Thursday, so there's a lot of fire meetings going on. We're going to have an hour-long meeting. It's going to be on Zoom, and we're going to talk about what the volunteer needs are at the coalition level. And then we want to hear from the people who might be interested in helping out. And then we'll try to match those two things together so that there's at least 1 or 2 people filling all the volunteer needs, so that people are less burned out, and many hands will make lighter work. So thank you. Thank you again for that. Okay. For that. What's next? So I've given you the highlights. We're gonna go deeper into the analysis of all those survey answers. There are some great quotes that I'd love to share with you from the write-in portion. You guys have great sense of humor. And then we'll figure out which topics need to be higher priorities for future coalition meetings. And we also like to share some of the detailed results with our partners, just so they understand maybe some of the frustration around the forms, the reporting, and so they know what changes we'd like to see as Firewise communities and can work towards that. All right, emergency preparedness. So this is one of the topics on the report, and I chose this image because of their very clear zone, their immediate zone, or zone 0. No vegetation at all. I'm sure that deck is fireproof, and hopefully there are no gaps in between the house and the deck boards. But before I jump into emergency preparedness, I wanted to share a personal note. So I'm new to this steering committee, but I'm not new to Firewise. I joined my local Greater Champion Firewise community 2.5 years ago when I bought my first house. And at that point, I saw all the signs about our firefighters, and I always, everybody loves our firefighters. And I thought, wow, if there's ever a fire, I am totally safe. They're going to be great. They're just going to come protect me and with their fire hoses, and I don't need to do anything. And then I read the Caldor Fire Debriefing in Moonshining, which is an online newspaper out of Truckee. And in that debriefing, they named Nevada County specifically, along with Paradise, as a community that was impossible to protect. It wasn't a fire person naming it, but it was someone who'd studied fire behavior for 30 years. And the other quote in the article that caught my attention from the same person, he said that home hardening is really the best way to protect our houses. We all need to take some responsibility. I know I'm preaching to the choir here, but when I read that, I realized 2 things. I realized that I need to take personal responsibility to harden my home, and that I also wanted to get involved so I could share this information with as many other communities as I could. So, on to emergency preparedness. This is what the survey results look like. This is one of the questions. So you can see here that when we asked how confident you were about emergency preparedness and response, with 1 being the least knowledgeable, 1 person was really struggling, 6 people felt really good about it, but look at all those people in the middle who were like, okay, but not great. And this particular topic is so important that we didn't feel like we could leave a lot of people in the middle. We want everyone to be really knowledgeable and confident about emergency preparedness, especially with wildfire season right around the corner. So tonight, in our remaining 13 minutes, I wanted to do a quick review. We have a video that might look familiar to a lot of you. Do you know how to make it play? So if possible, we do a quick, it's a 6-minute video just to review the principles of emergency preparedness in Nevada County. And then I'd like to have a group discussion. The reason this coalition exists is to share best practices and knowledge. We don't have all the knowledge. You all have the knowledge. And if you don't have the knowledge, hopefully our agencies and partners have the knowledge, and we're here to share it. So I know there are some people that are doing really well in certain areas of their Firewise community, and some people are just starting out or they're really struggling. And so the more knowledge we can share, the better. So after this, I'd just like to hear from you about successes around emergency preparedness, specific challenges that you'd like us to address, and just to share some information.
Is this the CAL FIRE video?
This is the CAL FIRE video. This is I'm not sure.
There's nothing here for me to click on.
Okay.
That's all. I'll go to the CAL FIRE website.
It says PowerPoint.
We could.
It says PowerPoint.
Or since we have so little time, how about we send out the link after this meeting? You can all refresh yourselves on emergency preparedness and fire season, and we can start the discussion right now. Yeah. Any questions on the survey results first? Yes, you had a
I have
success or a
I have a
challenge?
question about that 3-year action plan. I mean, it talked about, the zones and the meetings and kind of getting more people together. But at what action do you feel like, is it like the 5-year plan that you may have? Water storage or meeting places, or where does that come in, that action plan?
So your question is, where does the longer term?
Well, I guess one of the things that I didn't hear really discussed was, when does the Firewise community say, hey, we have a goal to have, this many people and all of the phone numbers, and this is where the hydrants are gonna be, or this is where the tanks are gonna be. I mean, when does that come into play?
We can change that. Oh, is he available? Ask James, and if we can't get him right back on, then
James, did you hear that question?
Yes, I'm here. Sorry, I was typing, but yeah, so I was a little bit confused as well, but if I can address it the best I can. So really that risk assessment is when you're going to identify the water sources that are in your area, and maybe some future things that the fire chief or fire representative, if you have that, where should I put my water sources? Or if we were able to, where are my fire hydrants? How do I put those on a map? Those are times when you're going to discuss that then. And then as far as, I think you asked, where do we put the goal for gaining 100% of the contacts within your community, I believe is what you were saying.
Yeah,
And
that was another one.
yeah, so it's hard on your action plan to write everything. So I commented to somebody earlier, is really this action plan. I don't have it written down, but goals are something that are broad terms. So here on this action plan, we really just want the goals. And then something that I recommend to folks that are really going above and beyond, that want to go outside this risk assessment and outside what's on this action plan, is really to have a secondary document where you identify, really get down in the weeds of, if you have 100 dwelling units, and on your risk assessment, last fall you did your risk assessment, or even in January, and you were only able to get, 25 names, and you only were able to see, half the fire hydrants, and that John up on the hill has a water tank. And so you can address that in there through your action plan in any year. But really, on that side note, you can really get down in the weeds with it to yourself. There's notes is like, okay, I'm going to work really hard to, by August of this year, or before November, before the snow starts, I'm going to really make sure that I find out where all the fire hydrants are. And then I'm going to, over the next couple of years, I'm going to make sure that I ask that question to everybody, is, hey, who has a water supply and who doesn't? And then if you need the contacts, you're going to have board meetings, you can reach out to different people and really just put that notes. You don't have to necessarily write that in through your action plan, though you can identify gaining. We have a lot of people do that in each year. So I know Chief Masuko doesn't necessarily want you to cut and paste, but that's a perfect one to cut and paste, is to continue to gain more contacts and more homeowners' names and contact information each year until you've saturated it. And then once you've saturated it, there's always new people that have moved in. So I hope that answered the question.
Yeah, so a comment to share something we found when doing our risk assessment last year. NID on their website has a map of where their hydrants are. So that's how we were able to plot the hydrants. And then my understanding, Fire Marshal, if it's correct, if someone's going to put a large water tank in, don't they have you look at it? So can't we get a list of where the existing water tanks are that were put in by property owners or?
Yes, if somebody's gonna put a water tank in, which Nevada County Consolidated District, it has to come to a plan review, minimum 2,500 gallons. And then I take a GPS point of that water tank and put it on our map.
There's a way to start without going neighbor house to house. There's some information out there.
Thank you. We have a question from Zoom land.
Oh, yes.
Russ is asking, is there some state law now or in the past year that says that all vegetation, including trees, are now supposed to be at least 5 feet away from buildings? So that sounds like you see room. This includes irrigated landscaping, plants, bushes, etc. Keep that if you can. And Jeff sitting next to me, Google, and he saw on the Ready for Wildfire website, that's not the law yet. So in California, in the 0 to 5 zone. Is that the law in state SRA areas? You know, might be within the city of Westman. No, James. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can. Struggling to push the button. Yeah, zone 0 is that 0 to 5, and the language, depending on when you looked at it, is, and I'm trying to get there, has been changing over the last year as they had a working group that worked through this zone 0, and there was a period of time where and insurance agents, you might get this from your insurance agent, where there was a period of time where it was 5 feet from the most outward facing point of your house, usually like an eave or a deck or something like that. And it was straight up into the sky and it was no vegetation. And so that really caught me off guard, and it caught a lot of people off guard. And so I'll put a link to the latest requirements, because they really brought that back and tied it into 4291 language and really tied it all together, in my opinion. You can also Google zone 0, and on the Board of Forestry's website, there's some of the working group stuff. It's really interesting reading of all the votes that they had to do to go through that zone 0, and some of the things like, you know, should we have AstroTurf up against the house, even though that's not a plant, but it is inherently, it does support combustion, right? And so it's not concrete or rocks. So I'll put a link in the chat to the zone 0 language, and then I was reading earlier, so 2025, it's going to go into effect. I didn't read exactly, but it should go into effect for new construction, and then by 2026 for the rest of us with older homes.
So the answer is no, it's not required now yet, but it will be required for new construction in 2025. And we're going to get a copy of this so we can start the late.
So the one thing I'll say is, so the Nevada County Hazardous Vegetation Ordinance has it in that ordinance already. So that is a local mandate for the unincorporated areas of the county. I believe Nevada City adopted a similar standard, and Grass Valley is working on their update for their ordinance right now. So locally in Nevada County, unincorporated and the cities, it will be required. So that will be an outline in the Ready, Set, Go guide that will come out this summer that has just a simple bullet list you go through and have citation references.
So is that in effect now or going into?
That's in effect now.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you're saying that could be a code enforcement issue?
It is a local mandate for zone 0 right now.
In Nevada County. Okay.
Yeah, so a lot of jurisdictions are doing that proactively because the anticipation of the passing of the Board of Forestry regulations that has it in there. As they mentioned earlier.
Clarification, so zone 0 to 5 feet is 0 vegetation.
0 flammable material, correct. So it would be vegetation, it'd have to be hardscape, or there's all kinds of options. And actually Cal Fire has a great website we mentioned earlier that has a lot of the details, a lot of the information on it. It shows all the options.
So irrigated is out, irrigated plants.
Right, it can't be anything flammable within the zone 0.
Good to know.
Right, wait a minute, I want to make sure we get this, because I teach the defensible space advisory visits, and I teach the master gardeners. And I went to someone's house a couple of days ago, and she had green stuff everywhere, and she said, Cal Fire showed up and said this was all fine, and I was like, what? I don't know. I think we're all up in the air about this. What I've been teaching is the 0 to 5. Put rock down, put bricks down, all that. But then I'm starting to hear from various people, and I go to see their place, and I'm like, you got that approved? I don't understand it. So I want to make sure that we all get on this and have the right information. I'm about to do a big thing with the master gardeners, 3-hour lecture on all this. So I want to make sure I really know what I'm talking about.
Yeah. Mickey, did you want?
Yeah, so I believe that the law doesn't take effect until 2025, so technically they are in compliance this year. And also when it comes to the defensible space inspections, they aren't necessarily like the weed cops. They instead of holding everybody accountable to the very last T, they are just encouraging people to do the right thing, to do the defensible space, to hopefully meet with them and have good conversation and encourage them to do the right thing.
Yeah, did we tell them clean it up? You got plastic stuff sitting here with plants in it. They're not being watered well. Man, I go through the whole route.
So the 0 to 5, the exclusion zone, it came out of the campfire. And basically what they found is, what they found is if you had goats, your homes overwhelmingly survive. Something else that they found was that the vegetation and the other knickknacks and like all the other just stuff that we have on our porches, we have on our decks, we have up against our house. Well, in these large damaging wildfires, they're usually wind driven. And so what happens is all the pine needles get blown up against the edge of your house, and then the abundance of pine needles and leaves will overcome the moisture within those plants and then get them to ignite. And then if it's right up against your structure, then it'll catch the house on fire. Something else that also came out in the 0 to 5 exclusion zone is now there's an 8-inch gap between where your sidewalks are supposed to be and where the siding is supposed to start. And it's another one of those things to hopefully help save houses when the wind is blowing the material up against the side of the house. It gets on fire, and hopefully it will burn out before there's enough heat to start the siding on fire.
When does that go into effect?
I feel like that might be 2025 as well.
So what are you supposed to do if you don't, I mean, can you put hardy plank?
Hardy plank is so there's different materials that you can use on your home that are approved through the WUI guide or whatever it is. But specifically, what are you asking?
Well, I go to a lot of houses, and my house was built in 1974. I don't have 8 inches.
Yeah.
And my house is kind of on a slope. Some places there are 8 inches, but others doesn't have it. So what are you supposed to do? Cut your siding up and?
No, just do like most of our houses don't have double pane windows. Some of our houses still have shingle on the roofs. And so,
especially in Truckee.
We just do the best that we can. And when it comes down to it, it's your home and you want to protect it the most you can. And so we just encourage people to make the decision to harden their home based on the studies that have came out of the large damaging wildfires.
Okay, so it's a suggestion.
Right now, it's a suggestion. I think it does go into effect in 2025. James, can you confirm that?
But Craig said that in Nevada County, it's required now.
So yeah, I'm talking about two different things. What I would say, and to Kristen Cook's credit, when we were talking about the update to the Ready, Set, Go guide, She talked about the confusion about local and state regulations and what applies, and typically the general answer is the most restrictive governs. So if you have a state standard that doesn't require it, but you have a local standard that does, you go with the most restrictive. But what I would say in the interest of time, we can follow up on these discussions because there's a lot of great resources for details, information online. We have it on our website, CAL FIRE does as well, and maybe we can talk about this and focus on the future meeting.
Yeah, sounds like a great topic for a future meeting. Seems like there's a lot of interest around it and a lot of confusion. So we are at time. I want to thank everyone for being here. Thank you, Captain Ausboe, for calling in and answering so many questions. And thank you for all the work that you're doing to keep our community safe. See you next quarter. Hold on, one little announcement.
We're going to have Jessica Morse, who's a candidate for Congress, here to speak, and mostly, actually, she doesn't want to speak. She wants to hear from people about Firewise, about your fire concerns. And we invited Kevin Carley, and he declined. So we're having Jessica anyway. She has a very interesting background, a lot having to do with forestry and environmental stuff. And she's very keen on fire safety and fire preparedness and all of that. So that'll be in this room and also on Zoom just a month from now, on the first Tuesday of June. And if you'd like to meet with her and ask questions about what she would do if she were in Congress about fire preparedness and federal support and all of that sort of thing, we invite you to come. I hope you'll be here to see her. Thank you.
Thank you.